Okay, so let me ask you a question for those of our viewers who are kind of getting interested now in Kanban. I sense a question that would pop up.
Bring it on. Let's do it.
And I think you have experience and can share your thoughts on this. When do you use Kanban? When do you use Scrum?
So you can use Kanban in pretty much any situation, right?
Yeah.
Scrum, less so. Right?
Okay.
So here's an example. Let's say that you have a very high volatility of requirements.
Yeah.
Every single day, the things that you're going to be working on are changing.
Yeah.
If you can't plan 2 weeks and keep that relatively non-volatile and consistent, Scrum's not going to work.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're doing like operations activities, if you're rolling out infrastructure, doing, working on office space, whatever it happens to be, there's no way you can plan out a full 2 weeks of work and expect that it's exactly what you planned is going to get done. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
So the more predictable, the more likely you would use Scrum?
Yes.
Okay.
If you have less volatile requirements, less ad hoc work, Scrum will work just fine for you. Okay. If you've got a lot of volatility in what you're working on day to day, it's going to be really, really challenging. Okay.
So Kanban is the more aggressive, the more hardcore version.
And it's also, interestingly, hardcore, absolutely, but it's also lighter weight.
Okay.
Right. So it's a very, very lightweight framework.
Because it's micro focused.
Exactly. You build a board, you set up your whip limits, and you set some policies up, and you're up and running. Generally.
Ralph Stacey, the classical Ralph Stacey matrix, which I love.
Yeah,
I think his graphic is a great explanation to explain something that's complex in a simple way, and it even defines complexity as simple, complicated, complex, and oh my God, this is a nightmare. Chaos, right? And if you look at the Ralph Stacey matrix, he basically explains what type of project management evolution or methodology can best comply with that situation. Yes. By the way, there's one major flaw in the Ralph Stacey model, which is the bottom box is not predictive; it's the line organization.
It is. You're right.
And the big problem with that graphic is the smallest box on
which
the graphic,
is the vast majority of the work we do.
It's the biggest box, right?
Yep.
So that's one aspect. But what I love his concept where he has what's called House of Pain or Chaos, that red zone
the
over
chaos
there,
up in the upper right corner. Yep.
Where it says kind of like don't bother, nothing works here. But I've actually seen Ralph Stacey models where somebody, I'm obviously a Kanban disciple, says what you have to use here is Kanban. What do you have to say to that?
100% agreed.
Yeah?
Absolutely agreed. The way I view it is that the chaos space is kind of like research and development, right? The chaos doesn't have to be bad. If you're doing R&D, chaos is good because you have no idea what you're going to work on. You have no idea what the experiment is going to prove. So it's constant chaos, but you still need to be able to manage that. And Kanban allows you to visualize the chaos, right? So absolutely agree 100% with that concept. You build a Kanban board. In fact, I've done this multiple times with R&D kinds of organizations. Put them up on a Kanban board just to visualize who's working on what and what's being impeded. As an example, let's say you need to conduct an experiment, but you don't have a piece of equipment that you need. I need to see that. I need it visible so I can go do something about it. So even in chaos, there's some visualization.
Okay, the way you're saying it makes it more endearing to me, because I think my objection was when I read it, it was kind of, I read it as a statement. All the other methodologies suck. We're the only ones who can do this. And actually Kanban doesn't guarantee that you can solve the chaos. It's just the most adaptive of methodologies to deal with the chaos.
And here's another way to think about it. Kanban is not a project management methodology at all, right? Ooh. It is a flow. It is a visualization tool. It's identifying your problems. And that's why you quite often see Kanban inside of other processes, because Kanban gives you the visualization.
Because you could do it actually for day-to-day work if your day-to-day work is good.
I use a personal Kanban board when I'm building classes and things like that. I keep all my work visualized. I do Kanban inside waterfall projects because it helps me visualize the problems.
Well, I think that the network diagram methodology is very, very closely aligned with it. And by the way, the number one thing that I miss in Scrum, when you're estimating story points from tasks to to user stories. I'm like, there's no way for you to know what the ideal time is without doing a rudimentary form of workflow or network diagram.
You got to have some kind of visualization. You got to have some kind of history in order to get some realistic view of what time is, right?